Welcome to Diaries of a Data Scientist, our podcast in which we share about what's important to break into data science, provide valuable insights also for senior data scientists, and invite interesting guests from different data science areas. We're Yasmin and Kate, we're both data scientists and mentors working in industry, and we are sharing here our thoughts and experiences. Let's go! Hi everyone, this is Diaries of a Data Scientist with episode 31, and we are so happy to welcome Yashar Ahmadov with us here as an amazing guest. Yashar is working as a senior data scientist at Amazon, or to be specific, a senior simulation data scientist, and we're gonna learn later what are the tasks and the role of a senior simulation data scientist. So for you, Yashar, and for our listeners, the concept of this episode is quite straightforward. We're going to look at your Diaries of a Data Scientist journey and hear your perspective on some of the stories and advices that our community wanted to hear from you. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, definitely. What we can do immediately is that open your first chapter of your Diaries of a Data Scientist and ask you the first question. So you have a little bit different background, right? And you started not as a data scientist in your career journey. So that is why it is, I guess, super, super interesting just to understand how it started, when it happened, and how it happened that you got into being a data scientist into this data science world.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your kind words, and it's a pleasure to be here. And answering your question, as you said, I've studied industrial engineering as my bachelor's, which is kind of typical graduates go work in manufacturing companies, logistics type of work, and this is the most common career. And when I graduated, I tried multiple stuff. I think at the beginning of the career, it is important to test different stuff because you never know beforehand what you're gonna love and what's not gonna work out. I thought working in a project management type of jobs is something that I would love. I tested 2 years, I got bored. Then I decided to really work as an industrial engineer. I got a job at a giant chemicals company in their production plant, first in Azerbaijan, managing the production, overseeing the whole process, being as a manager, also having direct reports, the operators, working with them daily, making sure that we manufacture the right products on time with the right quality, and we ensure that we have the highest level of health safety standards. I started doing that and started actually enjoying that. Then I moved to Dubai, continuing doing similar things. The bottom line is at some point I got bored. Why? It became too much routine. My daily routine was coming to the office, opening laptop, entering to the ERP software, checking what open orders do we have? Do I have enough raw materials? And what do I need to order today? So it became really routine. And one day I started thinking, if I can explain it to a computer, it can do it for me, because really it is considered a creative job. But if I can write it down in Python or any programming language, it can do it for me. So I started doing that, and the thing that was taking 8 hours for me was done by my Python script in 15 minutes. I started automating these things, and as I said, becoming too much routine. As a curious person, I decided that I need a different type of career where I tackle different problems every day, not really something specific. I come to office and do it every day. Rather, I want to very different types of things that keep me motivated. And that's why when I decided to switch to a tech career, okay, I want to be a data scientist or applied scientist in big companies. What are the gaps that I have right now? though I had little programming knowledge from my bachelor's, but I had good understanding of mathematics, statistics, all these concepts, which I really believe forms a strong foundation for today's traditional ML and
True.
even AI. Like for a long time, machine learning was just polished statistics, right?
That's
And
true.
yeah, it was just fancy naming, but underlying thing is the same, regression type of approaches, minimizing the errors, this kind of thing. So for me, it was mostly about identifying the gaps. What am I missing? I realized that I'm not yet at the bar with the programming skills. I took some online courses to maybe 6 months to bring myself up to date.
Was it hard to get into the programming language? Because like for me, I'm also right from the stats math background. And for
Yeah.
me, it was kind of a little bit, I had to get my head around this part in order to get into the programming in there. Like, I don't know, Yasmin, maybe that's completely different for you because you're from the computer science background, right?
Yeah,
So, and how's
for
it for you,
sure.
Yashar?
It is challenging, but I didn't have too much challenge, to be honest. Given that Python is a very straightforward language, it resembles like natural language. It wraps up a lot of complexity. I later started using Java, and because at some point Python did not meet my requirements for running speed. It was too slow. But
True.
as a starting point, it was great. And it wraps up a lot of complexity for you just by importing one library. You can do magic. While in Java, it's a low level language. Even for simple reading inputs from CSV, you need to write 50 lines of code.
Yeah, and I feel that is what many schools do wrong when you think about like, teaching informatics in school. I mean, there are courses, but many people are like, I don't want to take it because they hit the pupils with C# or with Java
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the people are like, they don't have any motivation, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
important to know the basics, but using something like Python would be a way lower barrier to enter.
Absolutely. And it works 90% of the time for 95. I mean, the scale that I'm working is gigantic. That's why in some cases it doesn't work because I process gigabytes of data, sometimes terabytes, and I need other technologies. But like 99% of the companies are small and medium-sized companies. And there it doesn't matter if your script runs in 10 seconds or 30 seconds, right? So Python is a great programming language for majority of the cases, and it's easier to start. And for me, that was the case. I was like, okay, this makes sense. You import this library, scikit-learn, you have the data here. I'm trying to understand. So that part wasn't that hard for me. And I realized that I'm also missing some basics in the algorithms, how neural networks work, for example. Again, I did a course from MIT on edx.org. They have an awesome 5-course program on data science. They teach you the whole science behind, and like they make you solve a neural network by hand. And that's where I realized, okay, now I understand what this is. It's not all about importing the libraries. I get it now. Okay, I'm taking the derivative and I'm doing backpropagation. I'm looking how can I minimize the error.
It's amazing.
So that was the second part. And when you switch careers, for sure, you need to take some setbacks for sure. It might mean going for a lower salary or lower job. As I said, I went from being a people's manager at a chemicals manufacturer to an individual contributor in one of the science teams. And that was the step that I was willing to take for the longer term, how I envision myself in my career in 10 years or 15 years. Let's say someone who has been already doing this or mastered on that. So you need to be a bit stronger, to be able to prove that you are a better candidate. And I'm
resilient.
glad, resilient, and you can bring a lot of things to the table. And I'm glad that at Amazon, really in the hiring process, we have people from all backgrounds. We have people from mining, engineering who do data science because that's their passion. You can study something, you can build basics, and giving people the chance to do what they love is, I think, it's a great advantage to have in any company, which doesn't happen, to be honest, in everywhere.
In order how you would keep one data scientist in the company, you should definitely have this freedom of being a crazy person, creating, doing innovations, and etc. That's pretty cool. But honestly, like, I want just to go back a little bit in your story, and you said about the MIT course, right?
Yeah.
Because this is something that I guess Yasmin and I were both struggling with sometimes when we have our students, and we've been constantly asked, can you recommend something for us, like for the kids, not kids, students that are from the different backgrounds? Sorry, guys, you're not kids.
We're gonna cut this part.
No, I love that.
I just have a strong feeling of commitment towards them, like you're the parent, Kate.
Yes, definitely. And can you recommend this course, like from the MIT, that consists of the 5 parts?
Yeah, for sure. I strongly suggest that. It's such a course that upon completion, you can apply for a PhD at MIT. So it's not a joke, right? People we see on LinkedIn take a half an hour course and post a certificate. I don't mean to demean that, but this is something separate. It requires a lot of effort. It's not easy. You really need to sit down and understand the concepts. If you don't understand, you need to go a little bit back and research the lower level stuff. I definitely recommend it. It is worth it, and it is not easy to do. So you need to be ready for that. But once you are done, it's very rewarding. You get to understand the concepts. You gain confidence on how things work.
And also, like, what I very much love to see, because this is also one of the pain points from a lot of, let's say, people that are about to switch to the careers, that are going from maybe engineering, they want to go to the computer science, they want to go to the like MLOps and etc. Because they would always, like, usually this is what I've kind of understood from them, have a bit of like fear. How should I go about that? Can I even change my career, right? Is it even possible to switch that from one to the being a data scientist? And I guess you are right now a perfect example that everything is possible. And you started with the automation things, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, career, especially if you're at the beginning of career, you need to really think about this. This is something that you're going to do for the next 40 or 45 years. I think the average career length these days is 42 years. So you need to pick it wisely, and even if it means some setbacks and taking a step back, I think it's still worth it. It's still better than doing something that you don't like for decades to come, right?
But I believe that many people do get comfortable quite early on in their career, and then sometimes I feel like also there's a kind of point of no return when maybe you're like in your mid-30s and they feel too old, even though, like, honestly, even at that point you can always take such a really intense course or even go back to university, right? So actually no one is stopping you. I think there's just a social belief that at this time you should be like settled and stuff. But I mean, as you said, like the life is too short and your career is too long to settle down early and stop being hungry about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's about what you want to do in the long term, how you want to build the life, and how you set your appetite in your career. I have full respect to those people also who say, okay, I don't want to become really a big manager at a big tech company. It's a lot of stress. I want to be ordinary data scientist. Instead, I will do stuff outside work. I have hobbies, I have family, I have travel things. I have full respect to that point of view also. The people who don't want to, intentionally don't want to grow in their career and take more responsibility, to take more things. And for me, it's always, if I'm doing something, if I'm in it, I strive to do my best, and the rest will come over time.
Yeah, I would say that's the perfect time, because we have a story from someone who chose to become a data scientist. They're quite still early on in their career, and they seem to struggle a bit. Would you be willing to give them some advice after hearing their story?
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing. Good. Then I'm gonna read it out. So that this person said that early on in their first data science job, they had the situation where they built this really detailed dashboard for their marketing team. It had a lot of like fancy charts, filters, some conversion modeling they were really proud of. But when they showed it to their like internal customer, they just stared at it, and then they even said like, look, this is actually not what we wanted. We just wanted to have a super simple view.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that person was like a little bit shocked, of course, after hearing that. And they said, this is a little bit of a wake-up call. I realized I got so into building something cool that I never actually asked what they really needed in the first place. They're still figuring out how to do that. And they ask, do you have any tips on how to get better in such situations?
Yeah, that's a very common situation. I have also fallen into the trap of, we come up with hypotheses, right? Like we are scientists, we sometimes work in isolation. I also sometimes think, okay, we have these terabytes of data. I think I can do cool stuff. Let me go and just do that. And right, you start doing, you start spending time, and in the end, it's data, it's math. Sometimes your hypothesis is not proven. Right, you end up with nothing, and that's why involving the stakeholders from the very beginning is pretty important, rather than working in isolation and hypothesizing that I think that the customers will love this. And this is a very common, thinking, which most of the time doesn't work. Most of the time, happened to me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That I thought it's gonna be awesome, they're gonna love it, but in the end they were like, man, this is not what we need right now. I can tell you from experience, 80% of the time it's gonna turn out that they don't need it, or it's overkill, or it doesn't work. So the key is to involve the people, the business counterparts from day one, even at thinking and brainstorming stage. You say this is my idea. You can also write down, put numbers, figures, your hypothesis, and you can ask your business stakeholders' opinion from very early on, rather than postulating and hypothesizing the things. And sometimes it might lead to even a different direction. I had this experience. I started building a tool that I had a completely different direction in mind, different use case. But when I sent the minimum viable product to the stakeholders, they started using it in a totally different way that I wasn't even thinking of. And that's what all it matters for me. It's as a scientist, I want my model to deliver value, and not necessarily to prove my hypothesis or what I think is the best way. So they started using it for different questions. I was like, yeah, this is the thing to do. I pivoted from my original idea and how I wanted to see that product.
Where's this coming from? So do you think that, I mean, especially when we're younger in the career, we're just fresh out of uni, we think like, we back propagated the neural networks by hand.
Yeah.
Do you think this is coming from a place of like false arrogance in your own like skills, or is this maybe like coming from how we're being trained to be data scientists at uni and in boot camps and so on? So where do you think this is coming from, this behavior?
I think it's partially, yeah. When you have no knowledge about the business scene, this is like there is an expression, I think, in any language. It's being ignorant makes you more and more, let's say, powerful, and you think that you know everything, and like you don't even need an advice from anyone. You are 100% sure that this is what they need, this is the methodology to solve that problem, and it's gonna work. So this is coming partially from false arrogance. It happens to all of us. I was also the same. I learned tons of things in the university. When I started my first job, to me everything was seeming wrong, right? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? And then you later realize that in real life, things are much more complicated. I was complaining all the time, and when I started, and my manager said, look, instead of that, if you come to me one day and propose me something that would cut our costs by €1,000, I will personally give you a medal and hang your photo in my room, right? So that is the thing. Instead, if you can do even a little improvement, it is already a good start. But it happens to all of us coming from academia, university, not much of understanding how business processes work, how overall the companies, the interaction between departments work, and so on. It's partially due to that. And it's a natural process, I think, that you learn. It's also something that you need to go through and learn the reality.
Yeah. So I don't know how that was for you, but for me in my studies, we never had any course that is related to communication or business or anything in this kind of direction. So pretty much you're doing your applied science, you are bump your head over the table 24/7 because you have to solve another equation, which is not on the internet even, that a professor just thought about and like gave you to solve that. And that's only what you care about. And of course, when you are getting out of the university, specifically if you're like on the master's or PhDs, you would think that this is your work, this is kind of your world. And what you got specifically to the industry, you're like, oh, that's a bit different.
Yeah. I think like having theoretical part is not something that I would really say is useless. There need to be for understanding the basics or setting the foundations. What I think the universities can do better is in terms of elective courses, giving more freedom to the people, to the students to choose from, right? That theoretical course needs to be there most of the time, I think. But if you're business oriented, they should give you more options to select and even through internships to do that. Again, the degrees, the departments have their own objectives, right? If it's applied mathematics, they have their own set of rules, or what kind of persona they expect the graduate of this role to do, and they have their own approach, which might not be overlapping with what you think. And that's why I think giving more flexibility through elective courses and can enhance your early career better.
Yeah, and that's actually why I'm personally not in favor of full-time data science bachelor programs, because you're fresh out of the school, and if you don't get actually the work experience and have some insight on how do you actually apply that, I think you're gonna really easy fall into the trap to just throw machine learning at everything before actually like understanding what's the business problem. In Germany, we have this also dual study system, right? Which was the one that I did, where you have 3 months uni, get the theoretical concepts, right? And then you have 3 months of work and can apply it in different rotations. And that is also now happening as a data science bachelor's. I think that is a different story, right? Because then you get to apply it early on. But I feel like with your background, Yashar, you were coming from the business problem, right? That's why you got into coding, because you were like, this is like annoying to do this repetitive stuff.
Yes.
And I think actually this is like, the honestly the best kind of way into data science, because you see it as a tool and not as the, the end, but the means to an end.
Yeah. But also let's give a kind of a different perspective on that, right? I'm also very much supportive of the people that are in the data science in tech. They're like straight from mathematics, applied statistics, and they don't want to interact with this world like anyhow, because this is something that I see a lot in the universities. These kind of people, they just want to do their equations, contribute to the science, and not really, having any interactions, not even like in a personal life. So
that's also choice and role. That's why we have like different roles in the tech world. Applied scientist is the first. Then we have research scientist roles, and then we have all kinds of flavors of the combination of these different things based on what people want to do, right? And again, all of them are valid options. Some people, as you said, are interested only in researching, doing the theoretical work. I think it's still important, right? That's why we had Einstein, and we had all the great mathematicians. And the bad part is now the world is more profit focused and more, let's say, commerce focused. That everything is moving to commercial grounds, right? Even space technologies, before it was government monopoly, moving into for-profit basis. Even scientists, big companies are hiring PhDs, professors to generate basically money or profit, as we.
Yeah, as Yasmin recently told me, Kate, this is called capitalism. I said something about how much I hate marketing, and she was like, Girl,
Yeah,
you live in this world, so
exactly.
welcome.
So that's the thing, right? It's
Yeah.
I mean, that's a broader philosophical question. It's a rabbit hole if we go there and talk. But I do believe that, you know, the humanity started as hunter-gatherers. Then we decided, okay, I will produce food in excess. So some people will settle down. You are going to be our priest for handling our, ceremonies. Okay, we collected more food and we say, okay, you now not need to go and hunt for deers. You are going to be a soldier. You're going to protect
Yeah.
ourselves. As over time, we developed financial system, monetary system. We moved into feudalism. Then we said, man, this doesn't work. This is not fair, right? One guy is taking all the profit. That's going to change that. Let's create a more fair environment. In 20th century, we had this bipolar world, socialism versus capitalism. Okay, for some reason, socialism killed itself. It was wiped out. Now we are left with this. I think we can do better for what's next for the humanity, right? What's the next paradigm the world will operate in?
Yeah.
Right now, our financial models, our stock markets are based on how much you can produce, how much you can sell more. The more you do that, the higher profits you're going to have, right? It's as simple as that. So I
Yeah.
think that's a broader and philosophical question, but accepting the world as is, most of the things moved onto the commercial sphere, even those scientific works. And unfortunately, lately we don't have those great idealistic scientists, mathematicians that lay the ground for the future AI and ML applications.
So we have
Yeah.
to protect them, please.
Yeah, yeah. There are
I
very
have
few of them.
I have to
Yeah.
ask now, Yashar.
Yeah.
So you basically just cut down world history from the last past centuries, and
Yeah.
when thinking about the big next step, right?
Yeah.
How do you see AI playing a role in that?
Yeah. I'm a deep believer in AI technology, despite with all the people say it's going to be bad, we're going to screw up the things. It's up to us. I do believe this automation thing has started like 3 centuries ago with the sewing machines. Then we had steam engines. Then we had electricity. Then we got computers, and more jobs became automated. I think this is going to continue and even take the most creative jobs that we think right now only humans do. I do believe one day even the things we do, that creative things, modeling, creating those applications, is going to be done by AI. I have no doubt about that. But it doesn't mean that people will become obsolete. At the same time, it will create other type of jobs that we even can't think of today. So AI, it's already shaking up a lot of things in terms of productivity, impacting the profitability of the companies, and there will be one day like the doctors or lawyers, everything will be AI because it has the whole internet knowledge and it doesn't need to be very limited. If you describe your problem, it can, even now those models can diagnose cancer patients and so on with higher accuracy than human doctors. With all due respect to human doctors, lawyers, we love them. They're very important for the society. But moving forward, I see a lot of cataclysm that is going to be impacting with tons of jobs. And this, in the short term, will create, of course, unrest because of losing jobs. But for long term, I think this is great for humanity. And also, one more thing here is that does not have to be accumulated, the all power in hands of one player. And luckily, at least with these LLMs, we see that there are many different players. Some of them are open source, and we see not only American but also like French LLMs that are doing pretty well. We saw some big improvements on AI space in China and Japan, which is great. Think that not all of this power is accumulated in one hands. So coming to your question, I do think AI is going to accelerate tons of things, make our lives easier, and even like create a new type of jobs, even more than before. And yeah, it will free up a lot of time, even the most creative jobs, so we can think of bigger things in life.
Yeah. So we had this also episode where we tried to put different perspectives on exactly that question into space, right? And you're leaning more to the positive outcomes, right? And I also rather be optimistic and, as you said, we are here, it's happening right now, we're here to shape it. So if you get a job in data science, I think this is a really good, future proofing your career to understand what's happening and shape that future.
It's evolving field right now, and there are many things being tried. If you remember in 90s, for example, there were so many technologies coming. There was a period of fast iterations, and then it saturated for the next 30 years. Now is the shake-up point. A lot of startups are trying different things. 95% will fail, but the remaining 5% will become the next Amazon, next Meta, all these big things. So it's an exciting time period to be alive, I would say.
And honestly, like to kind of connect it, I guess with this amazing topic, we're ready to go to the second chapter, which is being a data scientist. And maybe to start it, our question will be, from everything that we have already spoken about, what do you think are the 3 most important skills to be a good data scientist?
As in any job, you need to be the expert of your topics, right? In tech careers, it is important to be that guy, like the ML guy, this optimization guy, the AI guy. So it is important to build that, that reputation that you are the one that comes to the mind of
like the go-to person, kind of, right?
Go-to person, yes. It's important for having a successful science career, tech career. That is the one thing that I would say. Yeah. The second, I think, is more like a soft skill, learning and being curious. Always, this field is constantly evolving, and with AI every day, many new things pop up. So continuously, you shouldn't settle down at some point. Okay, that's all. I know everything. So it's not the way to go if you want to be successful in the long term, because things change every day. New algorithms come out, new improvements, new GPUs, performance optimization things, and that is the second one that I would say is the important. And third, again, connecting it back to the earlier things that we discussed. As a data scientist, if you're working for a commercial company, you are there to solve business problems and bring value to the table. That's the sole aim. Your role exists, right? Your projects, your models should bring cost savings, increase sales, or enhance safety in the warehouse, whatever those benefits are. And everything do, at least most of the things you do need to be tied to that. And again, we discussed this with Yasmin earlier, that you don't need to complicate things all the time, and sometimes good enough models that can be built fairly easily, answering the question is better than complicating the things and building a multi-layered neural network. So I think this is also one thing that differentiates a good scientist from great data scientists. They not only know the algorithms and stuff, they also know when to use what. That is the million-dollar question. We all do mistakes, we all learn, but eventually a great data scientist can listen to the problems, identify the root cause, and convert it into the scientific language. And also based on that is able to say, with great intuition and gut feeling, I think this approach would be the best, and given the complexity versus effort and versus the benefit that we will get. Right.
Having the business person in mind, right? For them, not for you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, great.
I just wanted to follow up on one of the personal traits that you named, the second one, that with the everything right now, what is going on, right? We got crazy because every single day we have a new algorithm being developed and etc. Do you have your personal maybe hints? Yes, for us and for our students and for the other experts who are listening to us right now. How do you deal with this? Because honestly, personally, I feel a bit overwhelmed all the time that I need to catch up with whatever has been put out on the market. And I feel immediately, let's say, less confident as an expert because I don't know that specific, framework or algorithm. Do you have something in mind?
What I do and what works for me is as you said, there are tons of noise. I avoid noise. I only follow the top, let's say, 10 people that I think they are game changers. For example, 𝐍𝐞𝐭, the Meta's VP of AI. He has a different philosophy on he's the one pushing for open source, open sourcing the LLMs, and he's a very interesting as a person, and also he's one of the shapers of this space. I follow him, and whenever I see like podcasts he's speaking, I listen to them, and like I don't follow everyone and read every person on LinkedIn. Really, the top ones, the ones that matter. And there are some newsletters that probably also it's spamming you all the time. There is a newsletter called TLDR. Every day they send you a very short summary. That's pretty good to keep up.
Get an overview.
What is happening, and following those top people like the Hugging Face CEO is on my connections list. I see what he's sharing, because they only talk about the most important things. There will always be 1,000 other things that will fade out very soon and become not so important. And really using LinkedIn to follow those top voices, and of course the podcasts. I listen to Lex Friedman's.
Yashar, like you talked about, like basically quality over quantity, following like the top people.
Yeah.
You also have quite a followership on LinkedIn yourself. So is this something that you're striving for actively, that you want to share that? Or did it like happen by accident, more or less?
Not accident. I think it was a conscious choice. Yeah, I do have around 33,000 followers. Um, I share almost every day or other day. Sometimes I just recap what I understand from the recent trends. Sometimes I share my own perspectives and things that I had in my career. And it's the beauty of the social network, because in physical world I can't reach out to 33,000 people. And
of course,
for example, in the last 1 year, my posts have been seen by 750,000 professionals all across the world, with more than 3 million impressions. Like in the last 1 year, my posts have been seen 3 million times and multiple times. People see your name for personal branding also, right? They know that this is Yashar. He has been around for many years. He's really not a bullshit guy. Like, he has been doing stuff, and it builds credibility for the future also.
We're talking about your diary of a data scientist, right?
Yeah.
We heard, like, from your point of view, what are like important skills as a data scientist. What would you describe as your personal superpower, and what is your kryptonite related to like working in data science?
I think, this having strength, again, we humans tend to be super biased about ourselves, and we might think that this is my superpower, which others might think no. So to confirm it, you need to get the perspective from others to really what you think is correct. But for me, I would say my strongest part is I'm not only traditional ML algorithms. I have studied a lot of optimization algorithms, which, by the way, optimization constitutes the basis for many machine learning algorithms, right? When you do a regression, you're actually minimizing the error function. You're trying to find the lowest point for that error. It's an optimization problem. The same goes with neural networks. So that one, and industrial simulations is another. So I became like a Swiss knife, knowing multiple domains and being able to choose the right tool depending on the problem. For me, my personal evaluation again is this: that I have this strong skill of listening to the business people, understanding, formulating, and picking the right approach to solve that problem. That is the thing from technical standpoint. And as I said, I continue to keep myself up to date with my knowledge, with all the maths and all the basics behind. If I had to choose one superpower, it's that.
And about, I guess, kryptonite?
Yeah, I mean, from the work environment, for sure, it needs to be a fair environment. If an environment is, we hear a lot from the people that it is toxic. They value people not based on meritocracy, but other things. These are turn-off points for me. Like, I wouldn't stay in an environment, in that kind of environment, right? Instead, I want it to be a fair environment. Okay, I'm human. I can do mistakes, and I can be ending up in a not good situation. But that's the normal part. We can not always be perfect, but things need to be fair. Of course, like, I think micromanagement means there is a huge problem in the organization. If you have to nag people 7/24, it means something is screwed up, and it's not related to the persons you manage. It's something is wrong with your organization, with your processes, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think perfect time for our second story.
Yeah, this is also what I thought, because we have just talked a little bit about the toxic environment, and I feel that one of the kind of flavors of this word might be that you're not being permitted to fail, because this is how you would grow as a data scientist, as any expert, and also as a person through experimenting. And we have one of the story for you. Are you ready?
Yeah, great.
Nice. Okay, then I'm gonna read it for you. When I started in data science, I thought the hardest part would be learning math or Python. But the real challenge has been the pressure to always be right. There is so much fear to failure, especially when the culture doesn't feel safe for taking risks. Since moving abroad, I have seen how companies treat failures differently. Some encourage experimentation, others do not. And I want to take risks and bring new ideas, but I keep holding back. How can you tell if a company truly supports learning through failure? And how do you build the courage to take those risks?
That's a very important point, right? Starting with the basics. What we do is we're solving problem, we are innovating, we are trying to do things better every day, right? And innovation is something that you can't get right from the first attempt. So it's simply not happening, because you're envisioning, you're hypothesizing what's going to happen, what people would like, what customers would like, and so on. So innovation and failure, they come hand in hand. You must try 1,000 times before you reach the success, right? This is a simple truth that an inspirational quotes you see on the internet, like Thomas Edison. He did 1,000 attempts, and first 999 he failed, and that's how he ended up being successful. So many companies realize this is right, but the culture, it does not support that. And this is most common issue that we see in also many big companies, right? They do say we value risk-taking, and they have inspirational wall hangings inside the company. We hire the best, we give the freedom, but they're just wall hangings. It doesn't go beyond that, right? Building a company culture is something very tough, difficult. It's like human behaviors, right? We build some habits over time. If I try to change one of my habits right now that I've built like halfway in my life, it's very tough because I've been doing it for such a long time. So you need to set things right from the beginning regarding the culture. It's a very complex, very difficult thing to build, and few companies did it really well. And one of them is Amazon, where risk-taking is not prohibited. So in previous experiences, if you go to a company and whenever a problem happens, people start pointing fingers to each other, run away. That's not the place to be. So first of all, the thing here is, in that type of environment, is focusing on people rather than process is a big red flag. It means they're gonna play politics and just blame each other. That's not an environment to be. Again, this is not something that happens overnight. This happens throughout the years that company culture is built, how it's structured, and how it is, operating. And it doesn't happen overnight, those type of behaviors. And when people do that, there is a rationale behind why they are doing it. It's because of fear of failing, And also the aim is not to find the root cause of the problem and fix that, rather to get someone guilty and clear yourself,
Mm-hmm.
not guilty.
Mhm.
Very few companies do it well. And one of the things why it works in some companies is the leadership. They come to every town hall meeting. They start the meeting with examples of their failures,
Of their
as
own failures. Mm-hmm.
own
Yeah.
failures. And that I have seen. When I see that my senior manager, he says he was about to screw up the whole web page and it was down for 5 hours because he was changing fonts on the UI and the company lost millions and he was not fired. When I hear that story, I say, okay, it is okay to fail, right? It's okay to do the wrong things at time. The most important is to learn your lessons, move on, do better next time. And this comes by example, not by wall hangings or sending emails and initiatives, all those. I think many of them are BS, to be honest. What really matters is when I see my senior, my leader talking openly, then I say, okay, the model that I built last year that didn't work out, that I spent 3 months, okay, it's not that bad, but I learned some things. I learned that that approach didn't work is also a good learning sometimes, right? And next time you don't do it. And again, it needs to be coming from the company culture.
You have like really amazingly described the part of the culture and leadership in the company, but also a lot of people struggle with a different part, which is personal one. Yeah, and you're like, how can I build this confidence and allow myself and give myself the permission to experiment, to fail, and be okay with these failures?
I think you cannot obviously fail all the time, right? You need to have build that reputation of projects as a data scientist that you can really make a difference. Of course, it doesn't mean that you fail all the time and that's gonna be okay all the time. So building confidence is first, build this portfolio that you're really proud of. And the other failures or lessons learned will stay in the shadow of the thing. People think, okay, this a good person, he's a good data scientist, he's able to deliver, he has already done great things. And from time to time, things don't work out. That is fine. And of course, documenting what lessons you learned from that failure can also be at least documenting, writing them down can also give you confidence boost. Like I learned these, and these learnings are useful, they're precious for my next projects, right? And that part also helps you to get through the frustration when things don't work. And I think in any case, it's important to be open in communication.
Absolutely. And I feel that is a very perfect transition to our last chapter, which is exactly on how do you grow in your data science career. So, Yashar, what is one misconception you had about being a data scientist, which you then at some point learned was wrong?
Obvious one is, again, I thought it's all about fancy neural networks and building those great models and doing great stuff. It turned out that most of the time the solution can be simpler. And again, you are there to deliver value, and that value sometimes can be a simple Excel spreadsheet that nobody thought of, right? One misconception is I'm going to become a data scientist. Every day I'm going to build neural networks and LLMs and stuff. The harsh reality that we all know is 70% of my time goes for data cleaning, understanding data, where to get the data. Really, really focused science job I do 20% of the time maximum. That is the maximum. This is something that you need to be ready for, that you will not always be doing coding and building great algorithms all the time. Some part of it will be talking to people, exchanging emails, formulating the business problem.
And like, just out of the curiosity, just mean, what was that for you? Like, if I would have asked you the same kind of question, just to think a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think my My common misconception probably was that you have to master all of the programming languages, right? Because I came from computer science, so there was like lots of focus on that. But as you explained, Yashar, like for 95% of many cases, Python is going to be good enough. So, become proficient in one strong language and, don't get stuck on learning syntax. Rather understand the concepts, the technical concepts behind it, understand the business problem, and then, learn what you need along the way. So you don't have to be like, 100% knowledgeable to get started on something.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess like for me, that was also a little bit about the programming language. I was like, extremely afraid of the live technical interviews. And I always thought that if I forgot one function, like it will be done. Where actually in reality, like specifically right now, everything is done by Copilot sort of, or AI assistant. You don't need to program by yourself anything anymore. So yeah, that was also quite interesting.
From time to time, I do technical interviews, and I do that coding interviews. I think some interviewers are really unnecessarily harsh that they want you to write all the syntax, all the functions. I think that's not the aim of coding interviews. For me, is the person thinking out loud. Are they approaching correctly the problem? Are they thinking of long-term maintainability of the code? I don't really run them, and I don't care if they get all the syntax correct or everything correct. Because those things can be easily figured out with LLMs and ChatGPT and so on.
That's not realistic for how you work later, right? Yeah.
I want to see the approach. Are they keeping like the optimization of the code, like they write the loops correctly? They think, how can I reduce the runtime? Can I do better? I'm writing a modular code instead of writing one main function with 200 lines. Those are I look for principles. Like, is this person aligning with the best principles rather than getting every line correct or everything working?
Yeah, perfect.
And maybe to this same kind of direction, what is the one thing that you wish you had known when you just started as a data scientist back in the days?
I think main thing, and I would suggest to everyone, the power of having a mentor. It's immense. The people that have already walked through the roads that you are going to, it's really a game changer. It can be your professor, former manager, or just someone you met. You need to build a bond with someone who has gone through all the steps too, and they can save you tons of time, frustration, things. Like and mentor is right now not sending LinkedIn email to people and saying, "Can you?" It's more about relation building, and the people that knows you well and trusts you well, vouches you for. For me, is for example my former master's supervisor, who has also immense experience in the industry. He still does it, and he has saved me maybe months of time, efforts that I would have spent without knowing. And he's like, I describe him in our monthly meeting, say, this is the setup. And one day he said, have a look at this framework. It might work for you. And it turned out to be a game changer for me, especially in early my career. Otherwise, I would have been kicked out, perhaps, if I didn't know that. So find your mentor who is really vouching for you, trusting you, has gone through the steps that you are aiming to go. Have a monthly half an hour meeting with them, update them how your career is going, get advice, and using this approach is very useful rather than trying to figure out everything by yourself.
Love that.
I completely agree with that. Like totally. Just 1 second, because like it's really kind of warming my heart, because I had an amazing supervisor and mentor. Like her name is Natalia, so a lot of hugs to her if you're watching. Because honestly, I cannot imagine being right now on my place without her support back in the days in there. And still nowadays we're having meetings together just to catch up, like to see how everything is going.
It's a long-term thing, right?
A must.
You're interested in building this long-term relationship and seeing how the journey goes on for a longer time. I love that.
It's okay to have short-term, like 3 months mentorship. We do it also in our company. company. Someone comes to me, they have temporary problem, or they need my expertise for a short period of time. That's also fine, but have one mentor for lifetime.
Yeah, I like it. We have a very last story for you, Yashar.
Yeah?
It's a little bit shorter one. So, like a data scientist feels a little bit stuck in their role. They used to spend their evenings reading papers, watching, talks and podcasts, exploring the tools, but now they mostly just close the laptop after work, and
Yes.
they are kind of feeling like, okay, I'm getting into the stable phase. Somehow they're like okay with that, but on the other hand, they're like worried that they are plateauing. So is this normal, and how do you keep that curiosity alive but not burning yourself out?
The first part, career stagnation, it can happen. Career is non-linear thing, and we don't set the things. I just got once approached by Amazon recruiter. I don't know, maybe that day she would have decided to write to someone else. I would have an entirely different career, right?
Yeah.
So there are many variable stochastic elements in career, and that's normal. And you might be in stagnation for some years and something comes up. So rethink if this is really stagnation, or it is just a stage, there is no right opportunities coming up, or the situation doesn't allow you, but you will be ready for the next jump if the right opportunity comes along, right? The question is, if the right opportunity comes right now, are you ready to jump
to make the jump?
Or not? If the answer is no, then probably this implies other problems, that you are not keeping yourself up to date. Of course, you shouldn't kill yourself, right? We'll have limited time, limited energy, and not everything is career for many of us. So setting that boundary is important, because career is something, if you don't set boundary, it would love to consume 70-24 of your time, right? It is something that will eat your time. It's up to you to set where you want to set the boundaries, and have respect to your boundaries.
Yeah.
I have family, I have 2 sons, and I mean, working overnight for 5 more hours versus spending or having dinner with them or playing chess with my elder son. Now, this is not something that you can quantify in dollars. It's simply your life principles, your approach to life. And I realize that they're growing and time will pass very fast. And I want them to remember me well as a good dad that taught them a lot of things, had fun together. So you make the trade-off. Maybe if you're single at the beginning of your career, I also did a lot of sacrifice. That I studied a lot in my bachelor's, really a lot. I had limited social life during those years, because it was really difficult for me.
You had some investment, right? You put an investment into yourself.
Yes. So set that boundary where you want it to be and respect that. And if you feel stagnation, again, the question is, are you ready if the right thing comes up? If not, then you need to think, right? Maybe increase the efforts to keep yourself more up to date. Constantly take courses at your own pace. Again, it doesn't mean that you need to kill yourself every day. Set a pace, maybe 20 minutes a day, but keep the consistency over time, and it's going to work out.
Amazing. Thank you for this really actionable advice as well, right? I think that will help that person maybe to better cope with that situation.
Yeah. And I guess like even for me, it is really, really useful, because I just had a situation like yesterday. I had a talk with my colleague, and he was like, okay, like, what are you going to do on the Easter weekends? Like, we have 4 days. And I was like, I have a recording that I need to edit, that I'm gonna meet with one of my followers, that I need to write a post. And instead, he was like, do you actually know that it's work, right?
Yeah.
And I was not aware of that. Yeah, so this is something that I'm taking with me, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about, how we prioritize our time. We have limited time, limited energy, and you need to live your life based on your principles. As you grow up, as years pass by, you start realizing that there are many more aspects in life. And I like that you're also teaching. That's one way of keeping myself alive, rather than becoming, let's say, a successful data scientist. That's one thing. That's for me. But what I do for others, it's also something that gives me satisfaction.
Fulfillment.
Fulfillment more than any other thing, more than the salary I get or a career progression I get. And I know that I've had maybe 500 or 600,000 that I've touched their lives, and many of them remember me. That gives me more satisfaction than many other things that we consider as a successful, having a successful career. So life is about choices. Pick the battles that matter to you and fight them, and don't enter the battles that you don't think is worth it.
Yeah, optimize for your own personal idea of happiness, right? It's an optimization problem.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It
Okay.
is.
Nice. The last 5 fast questions for you, Yashar.
Yes. And let's start with this. Please just don't think, just one word, one sentence, whatever you have in your mind quickly for 1 second.
Very short.
Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. What was the best page, the best moment in your data science career?
For me, it was being able to actually transition to data scientist and become a senior data scientist at a high-tech company.
Nice. What keeps you in this field?
Every day, new challenges to solve, impactful projects. The things that I do, the ones that I'm successful, actually make changes in the life of the customers.
Amazing. Best advice you got early in your career?
That's a tough one. We know
it's a tough one. Yeah, as I said, having a great mentor was the big thing for me. I think again, just one sentence that mentor told me changed my career was that when I started my career here, I told him the story, and he said, try this approach or read the papers about this, which ended up being the most useful thing that I've ever heard.
Which tool had the biggest impact on your work?
Tools, frameworks. Lately, I would say Java is a game changer for me, given its fast runtime versus the benefits that I get from it, if you're talking about programming languages. But overall, I've used plenty of frameworks. I would say optimization, like linear programming optimization problems solve a lot of problems.
Nice. And the last one, what emerging trends excites you the most?
I would definitely say AI. It's the buzzword. But the thinking that AI will be able to do more things that we can't do right now. At some point, AI will also be able to propose things, invent things, and solve problems, bigger problems, I would say. That keeps me excited, that we will be able to develop a system that can do scientific discoveries, for example. Maybe not in 5 years, but in 100 years, but it will happen. The things that we can't see as human right now.
And I guess with that, we're right now wrapping up this amazing episode. And the final words are your stage. You're the star. And just share whatever you want to share with our listeners, the viewers, and also your followers.
I would say first, thinking about career, it's never linear. Don't get frustrated with rejections early in your career. My inboxes are full of rejections. Even I studied at top universities and top companies. I still have tons of rejections. Rejections are going to be part of your career. Whenever you receive them, learn your lesson, move on. No overthinking. It doesn't mean that you are worthless or your idea is bad or you are not a good candidate or whatsoever, right? That's the thing. Click next button and move on. Learning and being curious all the time. That is the second principle that I do all the time, learning something new. And it does not necessarily have to be something data science related. Anything that excites you about universe, about other domains, about physics. Now keep building better your version of yourself every day. Like next day, be 0.1% better than today. Know more things, have more lessons learned, and do this. Thirdly, which is also an important one for science career perspective, document everything you do. Document every benefit you bring and keep them. It's hard when you start writing, you start iterating, you become easily dragged down to get something to work. Really resist the urge to working full time on the code. open a documentation folder, write down your thoughts, stop at some point and think about long-term maintainability of this thing. If the customers want something else tomorrow, how easy is it to be implemented with my current approach? Now, resist the urge to do something scrappy that works. And sometimes whenever the situation is suitable, try to slow down things and write down your documentation, write down your approach, model, your input structure, output structure. It will help you a lot. These are the three things I would say.
Amazing. So with that, thank you very much to be with us today. It was really, really amazing podcast. So that was Diaries of a Data Scientist, guys. And you know what to do, right? Like, subscribe, follow. And of course, if you would have any stories, if you have any questions, please link down below and give us your comment. Thank you so much and see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
This was Diaries of a Data Scientist by Yasmin and Kate. And if you enjoyed the episode, remember to check out our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn pages for more engaging content from the data science world. Thank you for today and seeing you in the comments.